Welcome to InBetweenIsode number 7, and so today we are reviewing, or I am reviewing rather, because Denny is not here, the 2006 Yunhai Nannuo from White2Tea, and so it's something that I split up part of a cake with a friend, so you can see I have it right here, and it looks more or less as it does on the White2Tea website. And so this tea, I don't think it's a very super exceptional tea, nor do I think it's a tea that's going to age into like the next Red Mark or one of those masterpiece teas. But I think it's a tea that finds its way onto my tea table quite often as a nice little inexpensive daily drinker. And I think this currently sells on White2Tea for $38.50 for a 357 gram standard size cake. So that's easily for me fitting into the daily drinker, very cheap category. And so the tea is from 2006. It's seen some wet storage in it today, so biologically the tea is a bit older than it is. And it kind of fits into this interesting category for me where it's not as old as most of the mature pu'erh that I regularly drink, like the 1990s Hong Kong style or the Bajang cake, and it's definitely not as young as some of the young raw pu'erh that I'll often be drinking, like the private label productions from White2Tea, Yunnan sourcing, or whatnot. And I'm going to just start to brew while we talk. And so, as in the past couple episodes, this is the third infusion, and so you'll see that this tea brews a nice red, almost red color, a little orangey, so maybe I'll extend the steep time slightly on the next one. Alright, there we are. And so there's a lot of semi-aged cakes available, and some of the other ones would be the White Whale, most notably from White2Tea. There's some on Yunnan sourcing that are pretty good as well. And this one's kind of a different one, and I think a lot of that is because of its stature. It's kind of like a more wet stored tea. So it kind of has this interesting, sort of like slightly herby. The aromatics on this are really nice. They're very, I get a lot of fruity stone fruits. My girlfriend said, I think apricots is what she identified them with. Just really nicely aromatic tea, and so it fits a different profile than kind of like the very popular White Whale does, which was dry stored, and so that has more of a in-your-face sort of punch that rather than this tea, which I think is quite a bit more mellow. And I actually think the White Whale is actually probably the better tea, but for some reason I keep wanting to drink this guy. All right, and cheers. So it has kind of a very basic sweetness. The body is about average. Paul of White2Tea notes on the site that this tea, one of the tea's significant traits that it has is a good strong huigan, which I definitely notice. So it has a lot of just really basic kind of fruity sweetness, which I find to be quite enjoyable. And I find that as far as like balancing out sessions, like if I were to session a lot of older pu'erh, which is something I've been doing, I can usually turn to this tea or a tea even younger than it to balance the session out. Likewise, if I were sessioning a lot of young raw pu'erh and I session this tea, I could session this tea at the end as kind of like a more mature pu'erh if I didn't want to drink something that was quite as old as like some of the other cakes that I've talked about. And so it kind of fits that interesting mode for me where I can just drink this tea quite a bit. And so depending on which session I'm drinking with it, it can actually taste quite a bit differently. So if I were to drink this after having a lot of young raw pu'erh, the tea would be much blander than it would be under ordinary circumstances, just because just kind of like youthful vigor and just the raw strength of a lot of the young raw cakes will make this seem extremely mellow in response. And some of the different features end up getting highlighted if you were to drink this at the end of a session of more mature pu'erh. But yeah, I've had kind of mixed results as far as showing this cake to other people, so I definitely recommend people check out a sample from White2Tea before they actually buy a whole cake, as I did for myself. But yeah, would definitely recommend folks check out this tea as sort of like a budget-oriented daily drinker. Showing you guys the dry leaf as well as the wet leaf. So here is the dry leaf. And I'm going to pull out some of these guys for the wet leaf. And so from the coloration of the wet leaf in particular, it's just really easy to tell that these leaves are sort of semi-aged. They're not green, they're not black. Alright, we're going to rotate these guys, because apparently you can't see them that way. So you could just see that these leaves are definitely not green, but they're definitely not like totally blackened as more mature pu'erh will look like. So just really firmly places it into that category of semi-aged pu'erh that's going to be really nice and easy on your stomach, but also still maintaining some of that youthful vigor. And depending on how you brew this, you could brew this a lot of ways. If you brew this real close and brew it for short steep times, you're going to get a lot less astringency out of it. But this tea can still be astringent if you want it to be. So if you extend those brew times out, and just to kind of cement itself as far as like being daily drinker status, you can recognize one of my Daiso tins, which I have labeled as 2006 Yunhai Nannuo. And so, yeah, you just kind of emphasizes that this is indeed a daily drinker for myself. And for the second time, thank you guys for watching. Cheers.